many things were guided by something else? Fear, worry, ego, regret. I was talking this morning too that in our discussion group that I'd been thinking a lot about organizations and how they will be changing in the future. We've had a mindset and a culture of, from the top down, it's been all about profits. And you would hear in every business class you took, and I don't know about now, I haven't taken any business classes in the last several years, but I know they used to say it's all about profit, and it's all about the return to the stockholder. That's what it's all about. Well, now wait a minute. Let's come up with a new way of being now. That an organization, if you have an organization and you're all about returning profits to the stockholders, but you mistreat those on the front line, you mistreat those that are cleaning, picking up after others, doing the actual work, maybe meeting with the customer, shipping something or delivering to the customer, and you demean them by paying them nothing, don't care if they have benefits, don't even care about their families. And they're the first line with your customer? I would suggest you need to rethink your business. But you know what? There are a lot of them out there. There are. I don't know if you've seen any lately, but I personally want to give my business to a company that has ethics. I want to know how they treat their employees. And I want to know how they treat their customers too. We're talking about them as well. But I do believe that there is social change happening. I believe that with all my heart. If I didn't, I think I'd be a bit discouraged and disappointed. But I do believe in that. And we also talked this morning about monkeys, didn't we, folks? We talked about the fact that things are changing. And they're changing one person at a time. And I'll tell you how we're going to do that. The path with love is going to be paved with people like you and me. And when we go out, we're going to do things kindly. We're going to let people merge in our lane without giving them an ugly gesture. And I bet you can imagine which one that would be. I bet you can. As a matter of fact, I can proudly say I have never done that ugly gesture my entire life. I have not. I have not. I never have, and I bet a lot of you haven't either. So, that's not love, is it? Is that love? No. No. So let me go back to those monkeys we were talking about. I love talking about them. And they learned that social change comes from watching them. One monkey on one island can probably wash the sand off of his potato. He realized that the potato was a whole lot better without sand on it. And then somebody saw him. Another monkey saw him. And so he washed his potato off too. And then by the time 100 monkeys had done this, even the monkeys on the other island that didn't see these monkeys intuitively knew to start this behavior, Don't you love that? Our power lies in our ability through words and deeds to do things that will change others, that will change their outlook, it will change their behavior. It does happen that way. It certainly does. That unseen intuition is probably what it is, but it's an action of love of God. This was another quote from Steve Jobs. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be inspired by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that beautiful? I was going to mention 2 commencement speeches this morning. His is one of them. I'm going to come back to that in a moment. The other one I'm going to mention is when we live a path of love and we're really, really doing things from the heart. We do it with intentionality and we do it with meaning. If you're not going to do a good job of something, don't do it. If you're just going to grouch your way through it and show up halfway prepared, don't do it. Either give it your all or don't do it. And the commencement speech that I had in mind, I was thinking about it this morning, and this was several years ago, and my daughter Sherry was there too. I'm sure she doesn't remember it, but I do. And it was at a high school commencement, and the man that had been asked to give the commencement speech was a person that was known to me, an incredibly genius, high-tech, had founded and developed several high-tech companies. He was just one of the most successful people in the area. And he had then become semi-retired and became involved with different things in the state capitol. And it was good things he was involved in with education and improving that, and he was doing a really good job of that. But apparently when they asked him to do the commencement speech, he didn't really intend to put much time into it because it showed. And it was a shame, because he's a very intelligent, loving person. And I just wish he had put a little more effort into it, because he missed a huge opportunity. So he showed up at this event, and we've got a packed auditorium, right, because there's a huge graduating class and family, parents there. And he, instead of having a prepared speech, you could tell he was doing it off the cuff. Unfortunate. And he stumbled around with it a whole lot. And he was talking about illiteracy, and I heard a teenager sitting behind me in the auditorium said, well, I guess he's going to give us an example of an illiterate person. And it gave me a lot of pain, because I know him, and I knew he could do better. I'd seen him do better, but it really made an impression. Maybe that was for me, that event, because it really impressed me. And I thought, man, if you say you're going to do something important, you show up and you give it your all. You got one shot at it. And that's the way I feel like every Sunday, every single Sunday. There's not a Sunday that goes by that I don't intend to give it my all. It all counts. Or a memorial service. It's the reason I became a minister. When I was 42 years old, I had a coworker that died suddenly. He was 42 years old. Healthiest person you've ever seen. Died suddenly of a stroke. And I know I've told you this, but I was sitting there at this little country church listening to the service, should have been a service, celebration of his life, and it was a sermon on how we're all going to hell. And it made me tear up because I knew this guy and I loved him, and he deserved better than that. His family deserved better than that, although they were sitting there shaking their heads, so I don't know what to say. But it sure impacted me. And that's one of the reasons I decided to become a minister, was right there when I was 42 years old, and I said, I can do a better job of that. I can do a good job of that. I am going to do a good job on that. So when I do a memorial service for someone, celebration of life, graveside service, I don't care who asked me. I don't care if I know the person. I study. I find out as much about that person as I can. I bring it into my heart. And wherever it is, I deliver the most loving, compassionate message, celebration for them you ever heard. And I'm proud of it. And I guess that's what I want to say to you today, too. Like Steve Jobs was saying, don't be trapped by some old dogma. Don't be trapped by the results of someone else's thinking. Don't be held captive in a box that someone's, or culture has created for you. You be just like a jack in the box, and you get yourself out of there. You jump out the sides if you have to. Because you know what? It's all just paper anyway. It's not even thick. That box isn't even cardboard. It's just as thin as your imagination could make it. There are no real boundaries around you to living a path of love. They're only the boundaries that you will allow to be there. And you can break through them anytime, just like that. Or that. Just break through. We ought to be having fun here. We ought to be joyful. We ought to be rejoicing that we have a place we can come where people talk about finding joy in life and not being so darn serious all the time. We were meant to be joyful. Life was meant to be good. It came to mind this morning in our discussion group that there was as much time between when the Ten Commandments were given or received. Let's say Moses received those words, and by the time Jesus came, let's say there was 2,000 years there. And now it's been 2,000 years since the passing of Jesus, who came to tell the world there's a better way. I think he said that. He said, you've been living by these old rules. I've come to give you some new rules. Did you know that? Were you listening? Love one another as you would have the other to love you. That's a path with heart. If you're thinking of a decision, decide which path, which step. Don't just think of yourself. Include everybody in that. Which decision, if I make one, will be the best for humankind? Which decision will further good in the world? And Steve Jobs also said, and he also said something funny, that when he was fired, although it hurt at the time and it was some pretty tough medicine, he said it was awfully bitter medicine, but he said, I look back on it and I know it was the best thing that ever happened to me. So he said some good advice to give those young graduates. His speech was at Stanford, by the way, where he gave his commencement speech. He said, listen to your heart. And following your heart means tuning into your intuition and your inner voice. When you do this, you can gain clarity on what you genuinely want in life. What do I genuinely want in life? Now identify your passions. Recognize what makes you feel fully alive, happy, fulfilled. What are your interests and hobbies? What are you good at? What do you find yourself thinking about? He also said to find balance, though, because we need to balance all of this with our personal responsibility. Find a way to balance your passions and your responsibilities. We all have responsibilities. You can't just walk away from them. If you're walking away from a responsibility and you're leaving someone else holding your bag that you help co-create, that's not right, is it? That's not a path of love. So you can't just all of a sudden pack up and say, I'm out of here, although you signed the dotted line on a mortgage with someone else, and you just decide you don't want to do this anymore. You don't have that luxury. Did you know that? There's a little responsibility that goes with that. And it's ethics, moral responsibility. Discover a way to pursue what makes you happy while remaining practical and responsible. And this process requires a great deal of commitment, hard work, and dedication. But the outcome is worth it. And I was thinking about, too, we do have days we don't feel well. And nobody's expecting you to go to work when you're not feeling well. No one's expecting you to show up when you're not well. As a matter of fact, now they ask you not to, please. You might spread something. But the truth is, if you're not ill and you've made a commitment to do something, and you're going to be letting a whole lot of people down, what's the thing to do, the path of heart? Well, is to have enough integrity to go ahead and do it, isn't it? It's a responsibility. You might say to me, well, Reverend Judy, I thought we were here to hear about the spiritual life. This is the spiritual life. This is spiritual living 101. This is the basic class. How do I live and love myself and show love and kindness and consideration to others? It can't get any more basic than that. Then watch who you surround yourself with. Just be aware. Be aware of that. Who's influencing you? What programs you're watching that are influencing you? There's been a lot of deadly harm that's been done after some people that are vulnerable and easily influenced have heard a really angry person on the airways. And they've gone out and done a lot of harm. But most of us aren't going to encounter that. We need to just surround ourselves with people that think positively. Surround yourself with people the best you can. And I know this isn't always possible. The people that aren't always blaming their life circumstances on somebody else. Surround yourself with people that want to take responsibility. They want to not only make their life better, but others too. Negative influences can be so draining. Don't expose yourself to that. And finally, Charles Fillmore said, it's the law of spirit that we must be that which we would draw to us. If we would draw to us love, we must be love, be loving and kind. If we'd have peace and harmony in our environment, we must establish it first within ourselves. I think Reverend Alice said that this morning in our discussion group. Thank you, Reverend Alice. You and Charles Fillmore said exactly the same thing, almost the same words. We must establish that ourselves. Maybe we're like the monkeys. We must wash the sand off our own potato. That's good too, whichever way you want to look at it. I just hope that maybe one thing that's been said today might enhance your life, might make your day just a little more positive than it would have been. And I just truly hope and pray that as you go out into the world today, you will have a big influence upon everybody you meet. Thank you for your time.